This episode of The Deep Dive is brought to you by Mindful Moments. Nourish your mind on the go. A series of AI-narrated meditations designed to feed your intellect and challenge conventional wisdom.
Yes.
Each bite-sized episode is packed with thought-provoking ideas, surprising facts, and insightful analysis, all designed to spark your curiosity and expand your understanding of the world. You know, we always talk about how our memories make us who we are, right? Like they're these building blocks of self. But what if it's the exact opposite? What if being completely forgotten could actually be like some weird kind of freedom? A lonely freedom, for sure, but still
Yeah,
freedom.
that's a pretty intense thought, right? To be totally forgotten.
It is. And that's what we're diving into today. We're exploring memory and identity and what it might mean to be forgotten.
And we're using a story to do it right.
Exactly. We're going deep into the story of Addie LaRue.
Adeline. Her story is so powerful because it takes what we're usually so afraid of and flips it on its head.
For sure. So in 1691, Adeline makes this deal right. It's like a classic deal with the devil situation. She gets to live forever.
Eternal life. But there's a catch.
A big one. She's cursed to be instantly forgotten by everyone she meets.
Poof. Gone from their minds just like that. And her story takes us through centuries of her dealing with this wild situation all the way up to 2014.
And that's what we're going to try and understand is this deep dive. What is Addie's journey, a journey where she's constantly forgotten? Tell us about our own need to connect with each other. And what about that drive we all have to leave our mark on the world? How does that play out when no one remembers you?
It's a real exploration of the human spirit's resilience, too. Like, how do you keep going when the world seems determined to erase you from existence?
Let's rewind the clock way back to 1691. We're in a small village called Ville. And here's young Adeline yearning for something more. You know, she dreams of going to Le Mans, experiencing all the art and food and just everything life has to offer.
It's so different from what we see with someone like Isabel Farrell in the story. Isabel is all about family, the traditional path, but Adeline, she wants to break free.
She really does. She even talks about wanting to grow wild like a tree rather than be all pruned and perfect like a bloom that's going to wither anyway.
Yeah, that image is so striking. It's like she knows she's meant for more than what society expects of her. She wants to carve her own path. And her sketchbook becomes the symbol of that.
Her secret record of a life that's always being forgotten.
It's like her own private rebellion against the pressure to conform. Even her own parents don't really get her.
Right. Her mom sees her as a dreamer, which isn't necessarily a bad thing. But you can tell her dad is worried about what people will think. It shows just how much pressure he's under to fit in.
Absolutely. It sets the stage for this pivotal moment when she's facing a marriage she doesn't want. She's desperate, so she prays for a way out.
And that's when things take a very dark turn.
Literally, she calls out to the darkness, to whatever's listening, and it answers.
And the deal they strike, it's not just some plot device. It
Yeah.
really makes you think. What would you give up for true freedom? For a life where you get to make your own choices?
Adeline makes a huge sacrifice. She trades away her soul for a life that's truly her own, but the price is being forgotten. Utterly and completely forgotten by everyone she encounters.
It's brutal. Even something as simple and personal as a wooden ring she's wearing crumbles to dust when the darkness takes hold of it, like it's severing her ties to everything.
It's a powerful symbol. It shows just how absolute the curse is. It's not just about memories. It's about her connection to the world being erased. And it happens instantly.
Yeah, the moment she makes the deal, it's like a switch flips.
Yeah.
She goes home and her family, they're acting like it's just any other night.
Like nothing happened. Her mom is humming in the kitchen. Her dad is doing chores. And it's chilling.
Totally. This night should have been monumental for her, life-changing. But for everyone else, nothing. Poof, she's gone from their minds.
It really highlights how isolating this curse is. To be constantly surrounded by people who can't even remember you were there a moment ago, it makes you wonder how anyone could survive that.
So how does she do it?
Yeah.
How does she navigate a world that forgets her the instant she turns away?
Out of necessity, she learns to adapt and quickly. In the beginning, she relies on stealing just to survive. There's a moment where she steals this little wooden bird figurine.
Yeah, that bird becomes really important. It's like her first real attempt to leave a mark on the world, even if it's through stealing.
Because in a way, it's the only thing she can do that lasts. You know, memories of her are gone, but that bird, she can hold on to that.
It's a way for her to say, I was here, even when no one remembers.
And over time, we see her try to connect with people, just little moments here and there, But it always ends the same way.
Yeah, like that time in 1714 when she goes back to Le Mans. You'd think being back in a familiar place would be comforting, but it's not.
It's the opposite. It's like everything is slightly off, like she's walking through a half-remembered dream.
And then there's the stable hand. She tries to talk to him. You can tell she's longing for some kind of connection. But as soon as she's gone, he forgets her.
Like she never existed. And that's her reality everywhere she goes. Paris in 1716. Same story. She has to constantly disguise herself to blend in. She interacts with shopkeepers, people on the street. But the moment she's out of sight, poof, gone.
It must be incredibly lonely to live like that, to always be on the outside looking in, to never truly belong.
But there's one constant in her life. The darkness. The entity she made the deal with.
Luke. He's the only one who always remembers her. And that's a twisted kind of connection, isn't it?
It is. It's not a healthy relationship by any means. He's constantly taunting her, questioning why she even bothers to keep going.
Yeah, he's always asking her, what's the point? Like he's trying to break her spirit. But in a way, his constant presence is a reminder that she does exist.
It's like this warped mirror reflecting back a version of herself that only he can see.
And then, after centuries of this isolation, something incredible happens. We jump forward to 2014 New York City. Addie's going by Eve now, and she's developed these routines for surviving in a world that forgets her.
Bookstores, theaters, just little pockets of the world where she can disappear for a while.
And then she meets Henry Strauss.
He's working in a bookstore and she tries to steal a book, and then the impossible happens. He remembers her.
It throws her completely off guard. This curse has been in place for centuries. Suddenly, everything she thought she knew about her life is called into question.
And Henry, he's not just some random guy. He's got his own vulnerabilities, his own artistic soul.
Right. He's drawn to Addie in a way no one else has been. And for Addie, it must be overwhelming to finally be seen after all this time.
Especially when he says her name, Addie.
That's such a powerful moment. For hundreds of years, no one has remembered her name, her true name. It's like he's giving her back a part of herself that she thought was lost forever.
And of course, the big mystery is why? Why can Henry remember her when no one else can?
And the answer, well, it turns out Henry has his own secret. He made a deal with the darkness, too.
But his deal is different. He wanted to be loved to be enough for everyone.
But it came with a time limit. He only gets 1 year of being remembered like that.
So both Addie and Henry are bound to the same dark force, but in completely different ways.
Yeah.
And it creates this strange bond between them. They both understand what it's like to be touched by something beyond human comprehension.
This whole situation really makes you stop and think about how vital memory and connection are to being human.
Right.
To know that someone sees you, remembers you, is what makes us feel real.
It is. And you know, there's this AI audiobook analysis channel on YouTube called Mindful Moments that explores these themes in a really interesting way.
Oh, I have to check that out.
So going back to Addie's story, we can't forget about Luke. He's always there lurking in the shadows.
Yeah, their relationship is so complicated. He's possessive, almost jealous of the connection she has with Henry.
He sees Addie as belonging to him, like she's his creation, and he hates that she's found someone else who can see her.
But Addie refuses to give in to him. She fights back against his control even after all these years.
She finds strength and defiance. In refusing to be defined by the curse or by Luke's manipulation, it's amazing, really. Even when it seems like everything has been taken from her, she still finds a way to resist.
And she finds these subtle ways to make her mark on the world. Throughout history, she's inspired artists and musicians. They might not remember her specifically, but her influence is there in their work.
There's this idea in the book that ideas are wilder than memories, that they can spread and take root, even when the person who inspired them is forgotten.
It's like she's leaving these invisible fingerprints on the world.
And don't forget about her stealing.
Right. He calls it an anonymous act, a way to affect the world without leaving any trace of herself behind.
It's her way of rebelling against the curse. Even though she can't be remembered, she can still make things happen.
But then there's her relationship with Henry. That's where we see the real power of love and connection.
For Addie, being with Henry is like coming up for air after being underwater for too long. He sees her, remembers her, and she can finally let down her guard.
But it can't last forever. Henry's deal with the darkness only has a year left, and that knowledge hangs over them like a dark cloud.
They try to make the most of their time together, but there's always that fear. What will happen to Addie when Henry forgets her?
And ultimately, that's the choice Addie has to make. Does she let Henry's deal run its course, knowing he'll forget her? Or does she try to find a way to save him, even if it means risking everything?
It comes down to this fundamental desire to be remembered, to know that someone somewhere holds her in their heart.
And she makes a decision.
A huge decision. She chooses love. She chooses Henry.
And we see it from Henry's perspective, too. His year is up, but somehow miraculously he still remembers Addie.
The curse is broken, and it's because of Addie's love for him.
And he does something incredible. He writes a book, The Invisible Life of Addie LaRue.
He tells her story. He puts her life, her experiences into words so that the world can finally know who she is. It's the ultimate act of remembrance.
And the dedication. It
Oh.
breaks your heart. It's clear how much he loved her.
And through Henry's book, Addie's story lives on. She becomes this legend, this mystery that people can't stop talking about.
So even though she was forgotten for so long, she ends up leaving a mark on the world after all.
It's a powerful message about the resilience of the human spirit and about the power of stories to connect us even across time and distance.
Addie LaRue's story is a reminder that even when it seems like we're invisible, even when the world tries to erase us, there's still hope.
There's still a chance to leave a mark, to find connection, to be remembered.
If you enjoyed this deep dive into the invisible life of Addie LaRue, be sure to subscribe to the show for more explorations of amazing stories and fascinating ideas.
And don't forget to share this episode with someone who loves thought-provoking conversations.
And if you want to experience Addie's story firsthand, you can find a link to the book in the show notes.
It's a truly unforgettable read.
And one last thing to think about. If our identities are so tied to how others see us and remember us, what happens when that ability to remember is taken away?
It's a question that makes you really think about what it means to exist in the world.
And with that, we'll leave you to ponder. Thanks for joining us on The Deep Dive.